Hi, and welcome to another edition of Naked Talks with Beyond the Bedroom. We're here in the middle of July with beautiful weather out. We had a lot of rain today, which was really great and refreshing. I love the rain when it comes here. We get lots of thunderstorms. It's really beautiful. But this week, we've got some fun stuff that we're going to talk about. We've got Chaz August as our guest. And before we get into that, we'd like to thank our sponsor. So I'll let you do that, Elizabeth.
Wonderful. So I'm going to tell you a little bit for those who are new to the broadcast. Naked Talk is where we get naked in a conversation of sexuality, intimacy, and relationship. We strip down naked and expose the bare facts so you can learn what it takes for your love to thrive. We'd like to thank our sponsor, tantradakini.org. They are the online resource for all materials related to sacred and spiritual sexuality. Please check them out for videos, books, DVDs. There's a ton of content there, tantradakini.org.
So in the last 2 weeks, we've had a lot of stuff going on. We've moved into our new studios, our new place. We're very excited, but we're putting it together. And you know, it's been quite a bit of a journey for us, and talk about really trying to work out differences between us and communication issues, lots of stress that's going on when you do a move. I mean, we flew back from California to buy the house, and the water heater burst right before the closing. So fortunately, it was on the owner's dime. He had all the insurance and coverage for it, but there was a lot of stress there. And then we flew to Chicago to get Elizabeth's stuff to bring it back, and so just a lot of stress. And it really shows how important good communication skills are when it comes to relationships. And tonight's guest is a person who is very familiar with an organization called Human Awareness Institute. And they teach a lot of skills around relationship, communication, how to connect. In fact, we did their level 1 workshop in, was it March, April?
March.
And again, Elizabeth and I were kind of at odds with each other. I'd been away for 2 weeks, and our communication skills had kind of deteriorated a little bit. And we came back, we really weren't looking at each other or talking to each other. And I would say within the first hour of the workshop, level 1, we were back in love with each other and smiling and happy to see each other. So it's really, really powerful.
Powerful work, and Chaz is going to tell us about that a little bit later in the broadcast. But we really want to learn more about him. We will disclose he is our friend. Dan can actually...
Do we have to disclose that?
Well, he's a friend. He's a wonderful friend.
Yes, we actually met him a couple of years ago when he came and talked at Beyond the Bedroom when we were doing the face-to-face conferences, and really just fell in love with him and his partner. I've had such a great time with him and getting to know him, and we're very excited to have him on tonight.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's bring Chaz August in so that you can fall in love with him just as quickly and easily as we did.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks. Very, very sweet introduction. Thank you. It's very mutual. I love you guys too. And I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking to you.
And Chaz is joining us from California. He does travel across the country, and I believe across the world, as a member of the HI organization. Am I correct? Around the world? I know HI goes around the world. Do you travel?
Yep, everywhere. Over 1 million miles at this point. So.
Oh man, I want to go somewhere strange and exotic with you, first class, with all those miles. So I'd like to actually introduce. Have you introduce a little bit more about who you are? I explained relationship and intimacy facilitator, speaker extraordinaire. I put that in because that's what I feel about you. But just tell us what you do outside of the HI work.
I'd be happy to. So I I have a belief that most of us in the world, we teach what we need to learn. Some of us are more open about that. Some of us can get pretty arrogant. I can get pretty arrogant sometimes. And then the universe usually comes along and reminds me that I'm teaching what I need to learn. So I grew up as a middle child of 5 kids in a 1,000-square-foot home with an alcoholic dad. So love was a very abstract concept for me. Love really meant getting moments of attention, and my attention needs were far in excess of what I could reasonably expect to get in that situation. And so I kind of chased relationships and other people to try to fill in what it felt like was hollow from my childhood. You know, I didn't really. It was very hard to feel like I got enough attention, so I chased attention from partners. It was hard for me to really feel like anybody had lavished love on me, so I chased that from other people. But, you know, I think most of people who are watching this, and you too, we all know that really if we don't sort of heal the place inside ourselves that isn't really loving ourselves, then other people pouring it in from outside is like pouring water into a sieve, you know. It just kind of leaks out. And that was really my experience, that I actually have always been very successful socially. I'm an extrovert, and I speak well. I know how to interact with people. But it really, no matter what I did, it always felt empty. It always felt like I was acting. I was doing there's actually, in Buddhism, sometimes we talk about, or in yoga, right? Perform the position, and then the feeling will follow the position. But my experience was I was doing these positions, but really I wasn't getting the payoff. I grew up in the 60s, so I'm old. I heard all the good bands, but I'm old. So the whole hippie imagery of like a world of like peace and love and dope, and we'd all just sort of hang out together on lawns and listen to great music and just love each other, was very, very appealing to me. You know, it was sort of like, it was my dream, right? To just be in this world where everybody would love everybody. Maybe I'd finally get enough attention. Maybe I'd feel lovable. And by the time I was an adult and out in the working world, it was the mid-'70s, and everybody had discredited all that. You know, society had moved on and said, no, that wasn't right. And it was like, wait, it was right for me. And I just kind of gave it up. I just kind of thought, all right, I'm going to go through life sort of having wasn't a terrible life, but just not really feeling loved or lovable. I tried therapy, helped a little bit. I had some good therapists. I had some not so good therapists, but it helped a little bit. I chased some spiritual teachings and practices. Some of it helped, some of it not so much. I got probably the most comfort from Buddhism. It was really it was sort of the thing that spoke most to me about just accepting what is and learning how to embrace and not striving so hard to try to make this happen, which was really good for me. It was very powerful. I'm still, I don't think of myself as religious, but if I had to name a religion, I would say I'm more Buddhist than anything else. And I got married, and that didn't solve the problem, and I got divorced, and that didn't solve the problem, and I had sex with a lot of people, and that didn't solve the problem, and I tried celibacy, and that didn't solve the problem, and at some point, a very good counselor suggested that some of my problem might be anger-related. And really, my work on my own anger was sort of the beginning of turning this corner. Because as I pounded pillows and stood in anger circles yelling and did all kinds of, I did a lot of anger work. I actually, one good friend who's a counselor said to me, look, you probably won't do this, but you'd be so healed if you would just spend 15 minutes a day pounding pillows for a year. And so I did. Yeah, for a year, every single day, till there was no thought involved in it, till it wasn't, till it just was this thing that I did in the morning. You know, I would just go lock myself in a room and just pound with my fists on a bed or hold a pillow up to my face and just scream. And the anger kind of led me in to that angry little kid inside me who was, you know, look at me, look at me, look at me, give me all this attention. And I kind of got to meet me at a very real way. And I didn't realize it until I started doing the work, but I don't think I really liked it. I really thought that I had to hide that part of me that felt so broken and hurt and felt like I could never get enough love. And the anger work, of course, any work, any deep emotional work, doesn't have to be anger, but deep emotional work takes you in to that, you know, that child inside us, that also that observer, you know. And from there, I began to develop compassion for me.
So through beating the pillows, you learn to develop compassion for yourself and then for others?
Yeah, absolutely. Because really, we human beings, we are subject to powerful emotions. And most of us don't have very much training about what to do with them. Most of us men have a lot of training that, you know, turn your anger into violence on a sports field, or just eat it, you know, just swallow it. Women are taught to cry and act helpless or stupid rather than act angry, because really in English there is only one word for an angry woman. Right? That's it. It's the in our language, that's the word for an angry woman. But then I think Margaret Sanger was probably angry. I'm pretty sure Harriet Tubman was pretty angry. I'm pretty sure Maya Angelou had her angry moments. I'm pretty sure, you know, like that. It seems like the only people who ever really make real change in the world had learned how to harness this anger, had learned how to love themselves and love their anger and have their anger be one of many expressions of their love. And that's really what I learned. I learned how to start to heal that bucket. I stopped trying to pour something in from outside and just started to love that and for me, that anger mixed with love really turned to passion. Suddenly I was able to be passionate. I was able to sort of feel what I had never really felt and experience that it was okay. There's a part of me, you guys have seen this, there's a part of me that's kind of bigger than life. You know, I'm very excitable and I'm very excited and I love what I do, and I've just never given a voice to any of that. I'd never given permission for any of that. So I did my anger work, and then I thought, well, I should teach this. And I went around looking for workshops. And most people are pretty afraid of anger, right? So I started collecting anger exercises, and then every 3 months I hired out a gym that was used to teach women self-defense. So it was all padded, and it was pretty soundproof, right? And once every 3 months, I hired out this gym, and you know, like $20 a person, brought in groups of people, and we did anger work. We did anger circles, and we pounded on pillows, and we did some not always violent expression. We also did some real inward looking about sort of what's under the anger. Well, maybe fear, and then what's under the fear. Well, maybe sadness, and what's under the sadness. Well, maybe pain, and what's under, you know, and really, really help us see that anger is not the enemy. You know, that there, and so that work led me to doing emotional work, right? And emotional work led me to start looking at the fullness of my own emotional life, and reawakened in me that dream from the 60s of a world where we could live together in love. And it really, it took me a long time to figure this out, to articulate this, but when I look at human beings in the universe and try to figure out what the heck we're here for, why are there people? Why did we evolve humans? What do we bring that no one else brings? Well, it certainly isn't stewardship of the planet. Look at how we're trashing the planet, you know? And it certainly isn't peace. Look at how we make war with each other. It isn't reverence for other humans. It's not that, you know, it's like I kept looking. What's the thing we do that the universe that would benefit? It is clear to me that the thing that humans do that nothing else on the planet does, we make conscious and give expression to the love in the universe. That's the thing we do that nobody else can do. It's not that my dog doesn't love me, but she really doesn't have a way to make it conscious and expression, right? She doesn't. I mean, she wags her tail and she, you know, sleeps next to me, you know. But it's right?
I know she likes you.
Yeah. But really, what we do is we write poetry and songs, and we tell each other "I love you," and and we learn how to hug each other, and we learn how to hold each other, and we learn how to have someone else touch their tears and have us in response touch those tears, and have us learn to cry together, and I know a lot of people feel like we fall apart, but I think we fall together, right? We kind of let go of this mask and this armor and this mask and this armor until we're reduced to the fundamental thing that makes us human, and I think that's love. So,
there's so many pieces that are so rich in everything you've said. What really stood out for me was, I'm paraphrasing, but anger as an expression of love.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you said expression, but that anger, how you can turn it in to love. Do you remember that specific statement? I just went all tingly when you said it.
Okay, so here's the thing. When I was a kid, I thought anger was the opposite of love. They either loved you or they were angry at you, right? And at some point, I realized, really as an adult, the opposite of love is indifference. When people don't care about you, they just don't care about you. This is why, when you look at war and politics and things like that, it's why it's so important to demonize the enemy. You have to make the enemy seem less than human so we do not care about them, and then we can kill them, right? The opposite of love is indifference. It's not hate. Hate, most often, anger, most often, is an expression of love. It's twisted. It's not the way most of us want to experience love, but I get so angry because I care so much.
Right.
That's
You
what's
got to care about
that
somebody in
anger.
order to be angry with them.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And this is why in couples, and in families, things can really boil over little tiny things. Who didn't do this chore, or who didn't put the toilet seat down, or who didn't put clothes in the hamper, can turn into because we care so much about each other. And it is caring which tends to fuel that anger and also fuel those feelings of hatred and distaste. It's caring. It's really caring. And
what you said is also really great about showing emotions. For a man who grew up as an engineer.
You're talking about yourself?
Yeah. I was very logical. Star Trek was one of my favorite shows. So Spock, no emotion. We go through things. Everything's logical. And I really stuffed my emotions down. I know with my first wife, we had some issues, and she broke a trust barrier to me, and logically I understood why she did it, and I didn't let myself understand that emotionally I had divorced myself from her. I got to the point where I just didn't care anymore. And you're right. I think you're absolutely right that was the sign that I didn't love her anymore.
Yeah.
And it was really tough. Being able to show that emotion, I probably would have understood a lot earlier what was going on and been able to potentially correct that issue. So I really like what you said with that.
I want to make a distinction between feeling anger, expressing anger, and turning an expression of anger into abuse, control, violence. So, because somebody's going to be watching this and think, wait a minute, people get angry at me, I get hit. Yeah, I was an abused kid. My parents hit me. My parents did a lot of things. Really, the lesson I learned as a child was when I could, no matter what they did, not cry, they finally gave up and stopped hurting me. Okay? I'm not saying that's a path to peace and love and finding compassion, okay? So this was part of my journey, was really getting angry at other people, yelling at other people, saying abusive things to other people, coupling with anger with violence, actually had me feel less and less lovable, not more and more lovable. I was just this prickly person that nobody could really get near and was really sharp-tongued, and it showed up in 100 different ways in my life. I'm not advocating that.
Right.
It was an inward journey to really look at the real core of the emotion, not the affect, not the behavior that I had learned as a child.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point, because even the way that I stated, sort of, that I rephrased it, anger as an expression of love, that I was like, wait, did I really hear myself correctly, and it's what you're talking about is the experience of anger when it's acted on, I think, and I love that you made that distinction. To talk about action, anger as an action.
Now, I was very blessed. In my mid-30s, I met a mentor who was a father figure to me, who loved me, who was my teacher. I still get choked up talking about him. Named Stan Dale. And Stan was the founder of the Human Awareness Institute, and I went and did a workshop. Basically, my wife wanted my relationship with my second wife was kind of bumpy. It wasn't really happening the way we'd sort of gotten married with like high hopes of what a marriage would look like, but that wasn't what our marriage looked like. It was a lot of nervousness and tension and anger, and so we went to high. Excuse me.
As are most marriages, I would say.
Yeah. So we went to high. We got actually our dentist had gone to a high workshop, and when we went for our annual checkup, the dentist talked each one of us into going to a high workshop. And yeah, it was pretty funny.
Open wide, not just your mouth.
and what I found at high first was a tribe of people who were all kind of looking for the same thing I was looking for. The workshops were called, back then they were called, What is Love, What is Sex, What is Intimacy? Okay, that was the name of the level 1 workshop. What is love, what is sex, what is intimacy? It might not have been in that order. It might have been what is sex, what is love, what is intimacy? I don't remember the order. But those were the 3 questions. And everybody in the room was in the room to kind of look at those 3 questions. What is love? What is sex? What is intimacy? Right? And it was very powerful for me. I felt like all that tribe that I'd lost in the 60s, well, this is where they all went. Right? They all went to this room that that High called the Room of Love, right? Mm-hmm. And what we did is we did these exercises which throughout the weekend had us all let down more and more of our armor, let down more of our guard, stop really talking about the superficial and instead talk about the deep current of emotion that runs through all of us, or the pain when you can't find that emotion, the pain of numbness, talking about real things. It was the first weekend I'd spent as an adult, maybe in forever, where nobody actually asked me what I did for a living. Nobody asked me any of those questions they asked to try to figure out how much money you make or where you live. Nobody asked about that.
Pecking order is.
Yeah, nobody asked about any of that. What we talked about was sort of what made our hearts sing and what made us sad, and we talked about how hard it was to make love stay, because I think most human beings find it hard to make love stay. And I fell in love with the work and had a strong negative reaction to the guy who was leading it, Stan. Because, not surprisingly, he was a workshop leader. He was a father figure. I had strong negative reactions to all father figures, right? Mm-hmm. And Stan loved me. He loved me. I went and pushed against him. He didn't push back. He didn't get defensive. He didn't, I went up and said, well, you got that really fake voice, and, you're really manipulating people. I've been in advertising. I know what manipulation is. And Stan kind of smiled and said, so you got moved, huh? And it was like, but that's not what I was saying,
That's not the point.
He just loved me.
Nice.
Loved me. By three workshops, I was a goner. I had sort of found the mentor that would guide me to now take all of that stuff that I've been working with and really provide a way for me to teach and learn and grow and live in an environment that was completely about love. And there were some things Stan said that Stan passed in 2008, 2007, June 8th, 2007. But I was with him almost 20 years, and there were things he said that just, Stan held that you didn't have to like anybody. You didn't really was not really that important. It was fun to like people and fun to be liked, but really, whether like was present or not, our job on the planet was to love. And Stan really thought that there was either love or violence. That was pretty much it. We either learned how to love each other, or we created violence. And Stan thought that pretty much everything anybody did was either an act of love or a cry for love. And sometimes those cry for loves were pretty, they could be pretty heinous, they could be pretty awful, they could be pretty terrible things that people did. But Stan was really clear. It was just a twisted cry for love. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so all of a sudden I had this teacher who kept helping me see that I could see love in every situation, in every interaction, and then helped me kind of turn that into I could help others see love. I could help others access their love. I could help others really feel the thing that I never felt, which was love, right? I didn't feel loved as a kid. And it turned out, because of that, all of that work I'd done to try to heal that leaky bucket, turned out I was actually really good at helping other people heal their leaky bucket. Mm-hmm. Help other people kind of see it and define it and see the parameters of it and learn how to love ourselves into being loved and being lovable.
Mm. Yeah, it's really hard to love somebody else if you can't love yourself as well.
Yeah.
And I want to throw out there, too, for our audience, if you do have any questions, we do have a chat box facility to support that. Go ahead and type in your question, submit your question, and we'll try to get to those as we can. You can ask Chaz anything that's relevant to what it is we're talking about. We actually did get a really good question about anal play, and that's not really appropriate for tonight's presentation, so we will get back to you privately for that. But you can submit your questions anonymously, but just clicking on the box to make sure that's not public. Or if you're not worried about it, go ahead and submit one in a public forum until we can all see it. Sorry, I wanted to let you go ahead and continue there, Chaz.
No, thank you. I agree. Yeah, I do want to say, while on my one-on-one coaching practice, I will work with people about sex technique and things like that. That's really not what I'm here to talk about tonight. So.
Right. Yeah, we really like to focus on a lot of what you're working on with the high workshops, and because that's coming into Colorado. So it's really exciting for us here. We had the first workshop, like we said, in March, and the next one's coming up in August.
Yes.
We'll talk a little bit about Laura and her crew. They're setting that up, but want to get our audience to know a little bit more about what high is and how it can work for them, and why they might want to attend.
And it'd be really important to talk about whether a person needs to be partnered, whether a single person can come alone. And I know you've probably got great answers to that. I already know them, but I'd love to hear it from you. Share that with our audience.
Somebody who's been in it for 27 years now, sounds like.
Yes. So
you're an old timer.
I am. I'm an old timer. It's true. I want to say that one has to age or die, right? But you don't actually have to get old. That's what I'm discovering. So, a moment about high. So high, HAI, the Human Awareness Institute. Stan Dale, that guy I was just talking about, who was my mentor for the last 20 years of his life. Stan was a radio guy. He started in radio in the early, in the golden years of radio, when they had like the Lone Ranger and the Shadow, and he did like announcer voices. He used to, sometimes for fun, we'd tease him into it, and then he would do the, the flash of hoofs and a hearty, "Hail Silver, the Lone Ranger," and he could just do the whole thing, and you just like, it was very funny. Okay, so he began back then, right? But very quickly, radio changed, and he got drafted into the Korean War. So, right, sort of in the first 5 years of his career, he got drafted to go to Korea. He had a background in radio, so first they had him in Korea, but then they moved him to Tokyo, and he did radio shows for Armed Services Radio. And what they wanted him to do was do man-on-the-street interviews with typical soldiers, so other soldiers could kind of, hear what their fellow compatriots are doing in Tokyo, right? And Stan, basically, that meant he couldn't really be on base very much because he was just traveling around to everywhere that there were soldiers. And so he was looking for a place to live, and through a funny story that I won't tell you, he wound up getting invited to live at a geisha house. Okay? Now, he got invited to live at a geisha house, right? And he had this... he wasn't really sure if he was being invited to live in a brothel, but he wasn't going to say no, and so he went, so he got permission, and he moved into this geisha house, and he lived there for almost a year. Okay, so geishas are a lot of things in Japan, but traditional geisha is not prostitution.
Right.
Traditional geisha is more in the realm of entertainment than it is in the realm of sex, although it's a very personal entertainment. But these are women who are trained to have men feel like they're smart and witty and funny and have them feel loved and honored and respected. But they're not really selling sex. They're really selling sort of this ability to just have this guy feel like he's the king of the world, right? And Stan got really interested in how do you just train an ordinary woman to do that? How do you train any human being to do that? And so he asked permission, and he sat in like the classes with the mother geisha and on the other geishas, right? He fell so in love with this idea that we could actually teach people to treat each other with so much dignity and respect that that person would feel like they were a king, that they would feel like they were a god. He thought, why don't we teach this to kindergartners? Why don't we teach this to little children? And it was really a huge, for Stan, it was really like the first eye-opening moment of, well, maybe that's what I should be doing in the world, is teaching us all how to be geishas for each other. Came back after the war. He's working in Chicago. He worked at nights. He went to school at nights, got a degree in psychology, and started doing one of these radio call-in shows, Ask Dr. Stan, right? And but the thing he noticed on the radio was you can't talk about sex, right? The FCC has really strict rules about this, and they were a lot stricter in the 50s, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know, maybe 10 years into this new radio career of Ask Dr. Stan, he's looking around at the world, and in the United States, people are starting to do workshops. They're starting, Werner Erhard is starting out a thing called EST. Insight is starting. I don't even know the names of them all. But, in the mid-'60s, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, all these adult education workshops showed up, and Stan decided, well, I'm going to lead one about sex and about how to be geishas. I'm going to teach people. I'm going to make it okay for us to ask questions about it, for us to be sexual human beings, and I'm going to teach us all how to behave in a way where we really do feel loved and give love, where we really do feel the healing and beautiful power of all that. And so that's really what the high workshops are, okay? Stan started leading these workshops to kind of teach us how to treat each other with dignity and respect and trust and kindness and compassion, with honesty, with reverence, and with love. Mm. And at first, it was a lot of lecture and blackboards and diagrams, and Stan figured out pretty fast, no, that wasn't the path. And he moved, by the second workshop, he started in '68 in Chicago, and by the second workshop, he was already moving into exercises, lower these walls and open our hearts. So you asked who's it for? Well, really, let's see. Who would benefit from training in how to give love in a way that other people would feel like held up and exalted, and how to receive love? Well, all right. Worked really well for singles, particularly those that were struggling to find partners. Right? Worked really well for couples because we're not really good at all this, right? Worked really well for gays, for straights, for young couples starting out, for middle-aged couples, for elderly couples who felt like, the whole sex thing was gone, right? It turned out it's kind of a universal human message. And so the workshops really are for everybody. There's no, you can bring a partner, you don't have to bring a partner, you're never too old, you're never too anything. You're not too skinny, too fat, too unattractive, too attractive, pick whatever measure. You're not, including sexual, like if you define yourself as lesbian or gay or bi or trans or intersex, there's just no, we are the Human Awareness Institute, right? We're about human beings, and pretty much as long as you're an adult, you're welcome. And I have to say, we would I think we would actually invite teenagers, and I wish we taught this in schools, but in our culture, you can't have adults teaching teenagers about anything that has the word sex in it. That's just too much danger of a child being abused, and so got to be adults. This is for adults. Okay.
And then the hope is that those adults will take some of these learnings and teachings and work on them with their kids. I'm not going to give away any of the exercises, but so many of the basic exercises that are taught truly are about deeply seeing the person that you're in that conversation or in discussion with, and that is a form of relationship. It doesn't have to be your love partner, but when you're in conversation, therefore in relationship with that person, the questions that we are taught to ask and listen and receive, they're beautiful. So if I had children, we don't.
I do.
That would be a wonderful, wonderful teaching. So that's the hope, is that this trickles down into families across, mother, father, sister.
Well, just relationships all across the board. I mean, even in the corporate world, I was in the corporate world for a long time, and our communication skills, our relationship skills were pretty lacking there. I mean, we had that hierarchy, pecking order, where you had a boss that you had to report to, and then everybody was jostling and trying to, fight for position and be superior, and it wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it at all.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that the exercises spread across relationships. So, good for you. We'd love to do some of those teachings to the younger set, but we got to get the adults on board first, and share the all become teachers in this universal language. I think that's another thing that I picked up on, that the common denominator, old, single, married 3 years, married 30 years. That common ground is just what you talk so deeply about, is love, and finding that expression and experience of love. So
I want to say Lisette here has wrote in a thing here. She says, I have a very rigid definition of love, and to me there are a number of things that one does not do when you love someone. How do you expand or make that definition of love more flexible? And Lisette, I actually, it's a great question. It comes right out of what Elizabeth was just saying, and so I want to make okay. I don't like to focus on the idea that there are things that someone does not do when they're in love, because I have to say that love brings up some very, very, very powerful feelings in all of us, and it brings out the best in us, but it also can bring out the worst in us. That moment when I think I'm losing my partner, I can really play hardball to try to hang on to my partner. That moment when I feel hurt, I can say very hurtful things back. So I just want to, I don't like to go into the what you don't do when you love somebody. I want to turn that around. Okay, I want to turn that around. I want to talk about how we express love. How do you know you're loved, and what makes you feel loved? And so I don't. What makes my definition of love more flexible is that I have trained the people in my life, mostly by my own behavior, to be very, 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 very quick to compliment, and to recognize that pretty much all criticism can corrode a loving relationship. Any criticism can corrode a loving relationship. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have criticism. It means I have to be really, really careful around how I express my criticism. And I have to own that when I haven't been careful, when I just because I didn't think about it, because I was in a hurry, because I didn't really realize how it might land, those times when I've been criticizing, I got to own that I behaved in a way that was probably less than loving and hard for the other person to experience. So I look at first, and I do this with couples all the time, can we make an agreement that, just for a start, no day goes by that you don't tell me something that you love about me and I tell you something that I love about you? That there just isn't 24 hours that go by where we don't actually tell each other something we appreciate about each other. I want you to know I raised a daughter. She's 21 years old. This was my rule with my daughter. No day went by that I didn't say to my daughter something that I loved and appreciated about her. No day, ever. Okay. Once is sort of the barest minimum. For me, that's like a survival diet, right? After I sort of got the habit of saying it at least once a day was really most of the day. I would look for opportunities to appreciate. Look for opportunities to appreciate. Now, I'm human, there were moments when I didn't appreciate. There were moments, okay. So my next piece was I had to look at when I thought I had a criticism. It was always really good for me before I said it for me to just stop and just ask myself before I express the criticism, is this really about the other person or is this really about me? Okay? Is the heart of my criticism that I didn't let your love in and I'm blaming you because it was the way you expressed it, right? You did it wrong. And if you'd just done it better, then I would have let your love in, right? Is the heart of my criticism that you've triggered something from my childhood, right? Okay, I can't, no matter how much I change my love, my partner, my kids, the people in my life, my work people, no matter how much I train them, fixing things from the outside never fixes stuff on the inside. So it's always really good to figure out where'd this come from. And for me, the best way to do that, really, is that I would say to my partner or my kid or coworkers, okay, I feel like I have this criticism, but I want to say it out loud, and then I want you to tell me back what you think I said. Just tell me back what it sounds like. And frequently, when they told me back the thing that I was criticizing, I sounded like an asshole. At that moment of, oh my God, yeah, you're right. That sounds really picky and small, and when I hear it out of your mouth, all right, okay, I got it. Let's see if we can explore deeper what's really going on here. So for me, criticism and compliments are the core of what takes us away from there's things you don't do. I want to say one last piece about this, and that's that we all have a certain amount of fragility in our egos. It's and many of us get cheated on, get lied to, get treated in less than loving ways by people who love us. Okay, and so this was the thing Stan taught me so well. They're all just acts of love or cries for love. And my job in that moment when somebody's doing something that I say, well, if you really loved me, you wouldn't behave that way, the better response is for me to remember this person, that's a cry for love in there. And I need to get enough information from them and really look at this and really keep reminding myself, it felt really painful to me. But the reason this person's doing this is they're crying for love. And if it isn't a cry for love, they don't do the hurtful thing. They just walk away. That's really, the opposite of love is indifference. They don't, when they stop loving you, they just don't care. They close the door and they go away. So, anyway, Lizette, I know you missed a bunch of that. Sorry. I see that your thing froze, but there we are.
Okay, so something froze.
Yeah.
That was really profound for me. The criticism, which is just so quick to come up because we haven't had that kind of training. I'm like making my mental notes about. I mean, it's so the truth. Dan and I were talking about this the other day. I was snippy and I was short, and like most couples, so much of our intimate conversation happens, just before we fall asleep in bed. Mm-hmm. And, he was asking for something more, something deeper. And it was so clear that something was underneath that, and some pain or some distress or some anxiety. And instead of, reacting to the criticism, how is it that we could get to a place that we actually dive underneath and get to that space that's hurting? So that's something that we want to put into practice. And then it's fun because we do the love thing quite a bit. Many times when Dan will say I love you, I'll say why, like why.
Yep.
And then he'll list these beautiful. I mean, they're extraordinary, and I want him to keep coming up with new ones. And it's a lot of fun. It's a little game. Like, oh no, I actually don't say why.
Fun for her. It's stressful for me.
Because he has to come up with new ones. It's really fun for me.
It is fun, though.
So he'll say, I love you, and actually what I say is, how come? And then he'll tell me how come. So it's actually really sweet. I took my mental notes, as I said, but I'm really going to strive, and I think it's even for us, and we're educators, to really have that reminder to say what you appreciate about your partner multiple times a day. you know, what you're so thankful for, grateful for, or how you appreciate them with kindness and consideration is just, it's beautiful, and a game changer and a relationship changer. So thanks for bringing that.
Yeah, and it's not because we do get caught up in the emotion, and in moments, you know, for me, I know personally, I get so caught up and wrapped up in my emotion at that moment that I can't really think straight. And it's not until the next morning I think, gosh, what an asshole. Kind of like Chaz was saying, you know, I was a complete asshole last night.
That's what I'll say.
Elizabeth, well, actually, wait, I want to say two things about that. But first, Elizabeth, I banish the how come question because I think love is irrational. And so how come is not really the question. What I encourage my partner to say is, I say I love you. My partner will say, tell me one thing that you love about me.
Okay.
Right? Because it's easier for me to tell you the things I love about you than to tell you why I love you. Sometimes there are these moments, and you guys have had them as couples, right? There are these moments when that's why I love you. You know, that thing you just said or that thing we just did. There are those moments, and they're really sweet. But mostly loving somebody is not really a rational act. Okay, it's not. My God, it's not a rational act. I mean, anybody who's ever had their heart broken knows what you're risking to love somebody a second time. You know, like it's not rational. We don't. There is no how come. How come is okay. And then when I say, tell me something you love about me, I want to encourage couples not always to go to the intellectual. I'm an earthy guy, and so is my partner. You know, and when I tell her that, well, you know, a lot of cleavage in that outfit, and I really love your breasts, you know, right? She lights up like a can. Oh my God, that's so sweet. You know, really, you know, yeah, okay. Because we all want to know that we're beautiful. We want to know that we're sexy. We want to know that we're attractive. We want to know that we're fuckable. We want to know that we're, you know, that sex is like a good thing. Like, it's not just these highfalutin ideas. You know, I love your mind. I love how wise you are. Although there's that too. You know, there's the, you know, loving somebody's smarts and loving somebody's intelligence and their wisdom. But I just want to invite, you know, like, ask for, instead of saying how come, ask for, oh, tell me one thing you love about me.
Okay.
And you'll find you'll just make it easier for Dan. Okay?
That'd definitely be easier. But that's kind of what I do, too, is I come up with one and then another and then another. And, you know.
It's really sweet. But yes, I'll change it. I actually do want to talk a little bit, unless it's off limits, about your beautiful partnership. Can I go there?
You can, just don't mention her name.
Okay, I won't mention her name. Okay. But the sweet, wonderful beloved that you have, we, of course, have had the good fortune of being in your presence multiple times. The last time when we were, all the four of us were, and your dog, we're all at lunch together. It was so wonderful to see the two of you, and maybe that it's a game for you, but the way you debated the topic, they were really, I don't know if you remember, but they were really intense topics, and I could tell that the debate was fun and exciting and energizing. It was really fun for me to watch. It wasn't we didn't dive into the topic with the two of you because a little of it was over my head, especially when it came to the political points. But your conversation was just, even though it was a serious debate and there was no winner, nobody needed to win, I loved being a part of that energy. So I want to share that with you because I haven't told you that it was just a beautiful expression of who the two of you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch, going back and forth, the intellectual level, and the give and take that was involved with it as well. So that was really fun. So let's jump real quick into, because we're starting to run out of time here, Hi, and the workshop that's coming up. There's something coming up on the 19th in Denver. It's an intro workshop. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Do you know?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So those workshops that I was talking about Standale, the what is sex, what is love, what is intimacy, those they've been since 1968. They've been evolving. Okay, they have been in constant production since 1968. We're one of the oldest personal growth workshops out there with no gap, constant. We went from staying alone in a room in Chicago, in a ballroom in Chicago, to having workshops all over the world. all over the world. Northern California, Southern California, the Denver, Boulder area, in the Midwest, halfway between Detroit and Chicago, in the New England area, halfway between Boston and New York, in about 5 locations around Great Britain, in northern Germany, in Australia. We have led in Japan, although we're not doing it currently, and we've been in Switzerland, although we're not doing it currently. We're and Canada, so it just grows and grows and grows and grows. The first workshop, that first level, we don't call it what is sex, what is love, what is intimacy anymore. We call it love is a miracle, because we've really kind of honed in on that's the place to start. The place to start this work is really with our loving hearts and taking down the armor and opening up our hearts and learning a language. So it's pretty interesting and high. You don't learn how to discuss. You don't learn how to debate. What you really learn how to do, you really learn how to listen. You learn how to really just be present for someone else and to listen with all your being, right? And we learn how to express not just with our words, but with our touch and with our look and with our hugs and with our, we learn how to become an expression of that love. And so the name of the workshop is Love is a Miracle. It's not a how to have sex workshop. It's not really about that at all. It's really, but that is not to say that it's disembodied. So, right, it's not thoughts about love. You have physical experiences. You do physical exercises with other people. Probably the thing you'll hear most in a high weekend is some mention of that you are at choice. Don't do this unless you have your partner's permission. Choose this, choose that. You're at choice, and it's not just empty words. We've seen people do workshops and all push against it, have to do it very differently. It's all fine. It's all fine. We understand that we kind of put out a smorgasbord, and we hope people will sample a lot of what we put out there. But we also know everybody has to try what they want to try and not try what they don't want to try, and take what they like and leave the rest. So what the July 19th is a little taste of all that. It's a trained presenter from the Human Awareness Institute who's going to lead everybody there in about an hour's worth of what we do for a whole weekend. Now, I want to say that while it's just a taste, it's a powerful taste. It's a very powerful thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you go to this 1 hour, you leave this 1 hour, you're going to notice the hour alone already changed something. Because the work is powerful. It's not that we have some magic. It's that the thing we're doing, we human beings, we spend a lot of time isolated. And for an hour, you're not going to be isolated. You're going to be seen and loved and held in esteem. And that's a very powerful and healing thing. So the 1 hour presentation, July 19th in Denver. And then the following weekend, August 1st through 3rd, right, we're bringing that Level 1, that Love is a Miracle workshop, we're bringing to Colorado. The site we use is up in Loveland. It's a place called Sunrise Ranch. Mm-hmm. And then that's for the weekend. And I'm friends with the couple that produces this, Laura Miller and Jim Beckmeyer. And so my sweetheart and I, we're actually going to come out and help support the workshop. We'll be there for that weekend, helping making sure people got places to sleep and make sure that the logistics of the kind of thing. I won't be in front of the room. There'll be 2 other people in front of the room. But if this sounds like something that interests you, really I want to encourage you to contact Lara Miller, LARA.MILLER @high.org. Her phone number is 720-441-3599. I'm going to say that again, give you a moment to grab a pencil if you need to. 720-441-3599, Lara Miller.
Yeah. And we'll put it at the bottom of the screen as well.
Terrific. Yeah. Terrific. And really, reach out to Laura. It's an amazing thing. We're just building a community here. And Laura herself has a lot of experience in intentional communities and a lot of experience in community building. And we have already a nice core of people that through our mutual networks of friends and things that we've done together. So it's not just, it can just be a weekend workshop, But if you're also a person who's been looking for that community of the heart, who's been looking for like-minded individuals, I have to say that after 27 years in high, pretty much all my friends all my friends come from high. Almost all my clients come from high. Almost all my, almost all my life comes out of this community. And not because it's cultish, but just because it's a very sweet thing to go through life with people who know how to love you and know how to receive your love. By the way, my details also will be available on Dan and Elizabeth's sites. I am a coach. I coach people in the stuff we've been talking about. I coach people in love and intimacy and relationship, and I do some portion of my work through Skype or G Plus or other video chat stuff. So regardless of your geography, I'm always available to talk to you about doing one-on-one coaching with me. And if you happen to live in Northern California, I live about 30 miles south of San Francisco. So,
and so people know too that it's a weekend workshop,
Right.
but you don't go home afterwards. It's an in-residence place. You stay at Sunrise Ranch.
You check in Friday for the evening activities, and you go home late-ish Sunday night. So
Right.
the workshop begins 7:30 on Friday night and ends 6 o'clock on Sunday evening. And we'll provide the meals for you. We'll give you a place to stay. Laura will explain all that when you talk to her or register. But yeah, you come and we all hang out together for the weekend. It's very, very sweet. And
Yeah.
Loveland, I understand Sunrise Ranch is absolutely beautiful. It's lovely.
It is. It is. It's a real sweet place. It's fairly private. The workshop itself is in a room where it's just by yourselves. So it's pretty great in that respect. And now, what about singles or couples who can attend?
So, as I said before, this workshop is for everybody. If you're over 18 years old, we'd love to see you in that room. When I first went, it was because I was part of a couple, and we were looking to bring some things into our marriage that had been missing, and it worked. It brought things into our marriage that were missing. I know people who use it as a dating service. I know people who they're single, they don't want to be single, they come to meet other singles who share this kind of value on love rather than going to a pickup bar or rather than or hooking up, right? I've seen people who actually are there on their first date, right? That they decide they're going to date each other, and they notice that there's going to be a workshop, so they come to the workshop, right? Really, it's for everybody, and not just young people. Okay, really, we have people who discover this work in their 60s and their 70s and their 80s. I actually led one weekend where we had a woman who was in her 20s, her mother, and her mother's father, all in the workshop room together, all in the same room.
Fabulous.
Yeah. It's a very, very powerful, beautiful thing. So.
Yeah, I think when we were there, we had some people that were 21 and as high as 75.
Yeah,
I
that was
think.
great. All ages.
Yeah.
Yep, all ages and all choices and all. I also want to say for a moment, we don't particularly teach anyone. We're not poly. We're not monogamy. We're not Christian. We're not non-religious. We're not spiritual. We're not spiritual. We're not. We really human. We really try to find a way to express all this so that it will not conflict with your other beliefs and other practices, but will add love to whatever it is that you believe and practice in your life.
And our audience can check it out. It's highglobal.org?
No, hi.org.
Hi.org. Okay.
HAI.org will take you to our website. Yeah.
And then go to the the section where it talks about Rocky Mountain High. It's something for Dan and I. He spoke at the very beginning. We had those 2 really crunchy weeks, and when we drove to the airport, because I picked him up at the airport, we drove in silence, and I was fighting it, and I didn't want to go, and I was like, thank God there's the high workshop this weekend, because I knew how powerful the practices were. And as he said, within the first hour, it was like, oh, hi, here we are.
Well, even the intro workshop that's the 19th, we did one of those as well. And so for those of you who don't know, I'm also part of the ski patrol up in the mountains. and we had been up skiing, and we thought, oh, we're going to have no problem making it down in time for the workshop. Well, it started to snow, and it snowed hard. And I'm used to driving in the snow, so I'm still flying through the mountains, have four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, and Elizabeth wasn't as comfortable. So by the time we got there, Chaz was leading this. We were again kind of at odds with each other. She was yelling at me to slow down, and I'm upset because we were late, and I hate being late to anything. And we walk in the door, and we're not even talking to each other again. We walk in, and within probably 10-15 minutes, we're looking at each other's eyes, Google-eyed again.
Yeah, the love bucket was full.
Yeah. So
thanks to Hi on multiple occasions. It works. I mean, we're well, I don't know if we're normal, but we're our normal, an average couple who goes through the ups and downs, and to have these tools, it enriches who we are individually and who we are as a couple. So thank you for the phenomenal work that you and all of the Hi organization do, and
Jim and Laura here in Colorado.
We're working so hard to make this a really beautiful community, and thus far, a job well done. It's just growing, and it's exciting to be a part of, and exciting to watch. And it is the reason, not in addition to loving who you are, it's the reason that we invited you today to talk and share with our audience the passion. I mean, it's so obvious, the passion that you have for the life you now lead, and the life so very well supported and transformed through the work of Hi. So thanks, Chaz.
Yeah, so are there any last-minute things you'd like to throw out there, Chaz? Anything about Hi, about yourself?
So let me just say this about Hi. In all our talk about sort of the basic message and what we do and what's so important, I want to say that often what doesn't get said enough is it's actually a really fun weekend. Okay? It's not, people sometimes have this idea, oh my God, it's going to be all this processing and it's going to be all this emotional. And I just want to say that was not my experience when I participated. It's not my experience when I lead events. It's a really fun weekend. You laugh a lot. You definitely get to be in your humanity with a bunch of other fellow humans, and a lot of what we humans do and say and think, it's pretty funny and it's pretty entertaining. So I just don't want you to get the idea that somehow it's marriage encounter. Not even a little. Not even a little. It's a pretty fun weekend.
Yeah. When we went, so I've done a lot of landmark education work where you sit in classrooms, your butt gets sore, and it's the entire weekend where you're sitting in a chair looking at somebody talking. And the Hi workshop is much more engaging. It's playful, it's fun.
And serious.
That's serious.
And revealing.
It's in depth. So it's really beautiful, a lot of fun. Can't recommend it enough. We can't wait till level 2, which is coming up in November. So we're definitely looking forward to that as well. And all the different levels. And I think there's something like 9 different levels.
Nine levels, and you have to take the first 5 in order. Each one of the first 5 builds on the next, but then 6, 7, 8, and 9 you can take in any order. There's sort of 4 different ways you could go after 5, basically. But taking one workshop only commits you to taking one workshop. There's no, and I want to say, if you've been to personal growth workshops where people did hard sell at the end, there's no hard sell here. There's no. Nobody's going to tell you failed the workshop if you don't enroll other people. In fact, many workshops end in a community fundraising effort to try to help people who want to go on to do another workshop and don't have the money to do it. So it can be a very sweet, it's a very sweet, empowering kind of thing. So don't scare yourself if you've been to workshops where you felt like you were abused. That doesn't happen with us.
No, not at all, not at all. I know we didn't feel pressured at all. There was that piece at the end where we got to help those who wanted to go.
Other people in. Yeah, it was beautiful.
And we were to help assist with that as well. I really appreciate it. Well, thank you, Chaz. Appreciate that. And now we need to get into the segment of what's coming up next for Beyond the Bedroom. We do have our monthly workshops that we do here in the Denver Boulder area. The next one again is at Brio in Denver, near in Cherry Creek, right next to Elway's, right next to the Cherry Creek Mall. We have Rhoda Lipscomb, who's going to be talking about blowjobs, how to give a better blowjob. It's one of the first of this kind of class that we've had in a long time, so we're excited about that, to see it. We also
That's a week from tonight.
Is that soon?
Tuesday, yeah, a week from tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the fourth Tuesday of every,
Fourth
fourth
Tuesday of every
of
month. Yep, that's right. That makes sense. It's the third Tuesday of the month.
So the entire sort of course outline is on bedevents.com. Please register, save some money. You can also sign up at the door. There will be no live demonstrations using human organs, but there will be things of all sizes which we can all practice on, but not in human form. So Rhoda is a wonderful teacher. Please come and join us for that. As always, Dan and I are hosting the Naked Talks.
The first and third Tuesday of every month. And next month, we've got a woman coming in town who's going to be talking about how she became kinky. We're doing a whole weekend with her where she's going to be, it's a comedy stunt we're looking to do on Friday in Boulder.
One woman show.
One woman, yeah. And then we've got a workshop with her that Saturday. And then she's doing the presentation again on Saturday in Denver, and then we're going to do a workshop again here in Boulder. And one of the things that we're really excited about is we've got an opportunity to use our space. Part of the beauty of the place that we've just moved into is it's got a lot of room for private workshops. So we're very excited about that and be able to bring that in.
And all the details, of course, will be on our page at bedevents.com. Mm-hmm. Look for announcements. We are harvesting a lot of wonderful ideas with intensives and workshops to come down the road. It's turning out to be a really fun fall for us. And as soon as we have all the details, we'll present them to you, our audience. By all means, we want to thank Chaz August for joining us tonight. It's always a pleasure to be in conversation with him, and even more pleasurable to be in conversation with him in person. So you're a lucky group, those that do sign up for this August 1 through 3 workshop.
Right. Even though he's not leading it,
he'll be here, back of the room support,
yep.
And they're very active supporters. So take that chance while you have it. So we have about 5 minutes more time. We have no other questions, but some people commenting, awesome, thank you. Thanks for the honesty, aging helps. And we really encourage active participation from our audience members. Not sure what the topics of our next few Naked Talks are. Dan just talked about the first one, but as always, stay tuned. And check out our website and like us on our Facebook page as well.
Yeah, if you go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/bedevents, then you can see everything that's going on in real time. We post a lot of information that we find online, interesting tidbits, interesting facts. Also on Twitter, if you follow us on Twitter at bedevent, not the plural version because somebody already has that. But we put out a lot of interesting tidbits on there as well. And we also have a YouTube channel for those who aren't familiar. And this Naked Talk will be posted on there hopefully within the next couple days. And you can get to all of our videos that we've done over the past, all the Naked Talks, some of the webinars we did, the 5 love languages, stuff like that is on that. And you just go to YouTube/bedevent, again, the singular version of it.
So you can watch us frequently and often.
Yeah.
So everyone, that actually about wraps up tonight's Naked Talk. We want to thank you so very much for being a part of this potent conversation. Again, thanks to Tantra Dakini. We really appreciate all the support we get there, and from you all in the community. One of the fun things about being part of our Facebook page is that you get to post comments, ask us questions, because that's what we're here for. We're your resource. bringing you fact-based quality information, again, so your life and your love can thrive. So please join the conversation in any way, shape, or form that feels right to you.
And if you'd like to submit a question anonymously, you certainly can go on where you register for the Naked Talk. There's a section there that you can submit your questions. Like we did get a question specifically about anal sex, and we will post a response to that, but it's completely anonymous. So if you have a question that you might be a little shy about everybody knowing you're interested in it, or whatever the reason might be, we will certainly answer those questions when we can.
With confidentiality always, at the forefront.
Right.
So everybody out there in our internet ether world, have a fantastic evening. Enjoy the tidbits and the tips that you received. I certainly know that I'm going to pose my question differently to Dan, and I'm also going to try and quiet that criticism or find out what's underneath it, so that I can be more complimentary towards Dan, and in service of our relationship and Dan is an incredible human being. So thank you again, everybody, and Chaz, many kisses. So look forward to seeing you.
I'll give her a kiss for you, Chaz.
Unexpected.
I liked it. I liked it. It was almost as good as me doing it.
And please tell your sweetie hello, and give your dog much love from me, because your doggy is very, very fun. So thanks, everybody. Join us again, and we look forward to conversing with you about sex, love, and intimacy.
Yep. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.